Part 11. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 101. Seeing Zhang Xiaoyan being pulled out, Xie Hong still felt a little uncomfortable. How did he get married? But looking at the situation in her family, isn't she in charge of herself? Xie Hong looked at Zhang Xiaohong, smiled sullenly. None of them could run away. The more they flattered themselves, the more they showed that they were desperate for money. Isn't it money? As long as you are happy, it is trivial, and the big deal is to throw the money spent on the dance hall on them. Zhang Fuqiao drank a little, looked at Xie Hong holding up the wine glass in his hand and said, "Brother-in-law, I'll tell you straight, brother, last year was really humming bad for me. I've been losing money in business, and I don't know what to do this year. Can you arrange it? These are all small problems. If I become your brother-in-law, you go to my battlefield. If your income is less than 1,000 in any month, I will make it up for you." Xie Hong released a rhetoric. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Fuqiao's eyes lit up, and everyone else in the room was a little shocked. 1,000 yuan a month. I'm done, I'm bored. Zhang Fuqiao's hands were shaking with excitement, and he took half a glass of white wine and drank it in one gulp. The second sister-in-law was anxious, and kept pinching Zhang Fulu. "Brother-in-law, I respect you too. I think following you is absolutely the same. Brother, I can see at a glance that you will definitely grow up in the future. I will go with my eldest brother and earn the same amount of money, and I will be bored." Zhang Fulu drank half a glass of liquor before he could speak. Xie Hong watched the performances of the two brothers with a playful expression on his face, just like watching two monkeys in the zoo desperately performing, trying to win the favor of the caretaker, which was extremely funny. He slowly lit a cigarette, and at this moment there was an emperor-like enjoyment in his heart. Even when he went to a dance hall for consumption, he never had the pleasure of trampling on other people's dignity. After all, the dignity of those people, I don't know how many people have trampled on them. I still say the same thing. I want to be your brother-in-law and become your own family. It's easy to say anything, but I think Xie Hong is too young and a little inappropriate." Xie Hong knocked the ash and said, "If you can't become a family, don't blame me." Everyone understood in an instant. Zhang Xiaohong was sitting there with an unsightly face. She lowered her head and felt aggrieved. Suddenly, a hand touched her ankle. Zhang Xiaohong looked up and saw that it was Xie Hong. He quickly pulled his feet back. "Don't worry, another 2 years," Xie Hong whispered. "Dad, stay with me, I'll go see my sister." Zhang Fuqiao stood up and walked out, followed by his sister-in-law. In another room, Zhang Xiaoyan was sitting on a chair with an ugly face. Song Suimei looked at her and scolded, "You are such a big man, you don't understand this reason? He is not here now, and then let him get out of the way. Besides, they didn't get the certificate, who knows? Yeah, Lu Feng's kind of stuff should have left him long ago." Sister-in-law said, "I'm also doing it for your own good. Besides, they have money. I said just now that if they are successful, they will give it to your elder brother. The second brother arranges work, and the monthly income is not less than 1,000 yuan. "How much?" Song Suimei's eyes widened and she didn't dare to believe. $1,000. Why are you so ignorant? This kind of opportunity is a rare opportunity. People of this level will never meet us once in a lifetime. If you don't like Xie Hong, but like you should be happy. That's right, it's better to go to a delicious and spicy drink than you and Lu Feng. The most important thing is that the whole family is well. Let me tell you, my job is gone. Next year, my family of 4 can come to you for a drink of northwest wind. You give me 1,000 yuan a month, you know." Zhang Fuqiao pointed at Zhang Xiaoyan and scolded. "Me too, don't blame the second brother for his unpleasant speech, try not to marry." Zhang Xiaoyan's heart has never been so cold. She raised her head and looked at the faces. They were all thinking about their own interests, and they would yell at them for any loss. She is like a lamb to be slaughtered, no one thinks about her. In the past few years, she couldn't live any longer. Her family just stared at her for dowry money, and now they are forcing her to remarry. If I get married, I'm afraid it will be a joke. Zhang Fuqiao turned his head back to the main room, and said to Xiahong, brother-in-law, Xiao Yan is a thin-skinned person, don't take it to heart. Although my sister has gone to college and has a little knowledge, I can see that you are still shy, and I just followed me. Mom said I like you too. Really? Ha 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 ha, Xiahong laughed. He didn't want to know the twists and turns, just knew that it was done. Come on, brother, let's go. My job. Don't worry, brother-in-law, I can still treat you badly, definitely not less than 1,000 yuan. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng finally finished the dinner, stood at the door of the hotel politely for a while, put Duo in the back seat and drove back. Zhu's Haiqiang looked at them and said, I will take the lead in this matter. My personal relationship with President Lu is very good, what do you think? Wang Yang felt that this was a bit too coincidental. It happened to be during his inspection that he came to such a big project, and he made eye contact with the people around him and said, tomorrow is the new year, so let's go to his house to pay a New Year's greetings. Yep. Zhu's Haiqiang naturally understood that they wanted to confirm Lu Feng's identity, so they had to go along and say yes. Lu Feng drove his car to the door, and Duo jumped out of the car and shouted that his mother rushed into the yard. Zhang Ergu entered the house and said, Lu Feng is back, I saw Duo running into the yard. Zhang Xiaoyan turned her head and her eyes were red. She stood up and was about to go out, but was pressed down by Zhang Fulu. You said well, the child is not yours. Yes, it's all for your own good, sister-in-law persuaded, can we still harm you? I want to go back, this year, I can't do it, Zhang Xiaoyan said coldly. Don't resent us, it won't be too late to thank us in a few years, second sister-in-law said aside, you eat spicy food, we just drink soup, what's the use with Lu Feng? When Lu Feng saw a Huda parked in front of the door, he looked at it twice, thinking in his heart, that Xiahong's target was coming. Go in to see who it is and if he recognizes it. Before entering the door, Zhang Fuqiao stood at the door. Lu Feng stared at him and said nothing. If he hadn't looked at Zhang Xiaoyan's face, he would have turned his head and left long ago. How could he have stayed here? Excuse me. Don't let it. There's no place for you to stay in this home, so drive your broken car and roll. Zhang Fuqiao scolded Lu Feng's car with a finger. Lu Feng looked down, looked at him and said, I really don't want to beat you, or I'll beat you yesterday and let my family get out, right? Okay, call Xiao Yan out and we'll go back. You take your daughter to get out, my sister can't follow you anymore. You should know what kind of life you have lived by yourself. Without my sister working to support you, you will starve to death, get out of me, Zhang Fuqiao scolded Road. Lu Feng didn't know what happened when he went out for a meal, looked at him and said, you ask Zhang Xiaoyan to tell me that if she wants a divorce, I have nothing to say. I signed the divorce agreement. What about the agreement, Nima? You didn't even get the certificate. What Lu Feng originally intended to say was to separate the property, one person and one half. Zhang Fula came out, looked at Lu Feng and said, I'm not going, right? I'm telling you, Xiao Yan finds a rich man, and follows you as a useless person, and has to eat chaff for the rest of his life, let's be more straightforward. Well, Xiahong's object, I haven't talked about it, but I've fallen in love with Xiao Yan. Lu Feng's head was buzzing, and a nameless fire rushed in his heart. He didn't need to ask what these people did. I didn't like my sister, but I fell in love with my sister? Is this family's daughter a vegetable in a vegetable shop? Step aside. Lu Feng shouted loudly and rushed inside. Isn't it right? Damn it, You haven't been beaten by Lao Tzu, have you? Him. The brothers tore at Lu Feng. However, the two of them didn't drink less at noon, and they were already shaking a bit. Zhang Fuqiao raised his foot and kicked Lu Feng, and when he was unstable, he fell first. Lu Feng raised his hand and punched him in the face. The other party was lying in the doorway with his face covered and howling, leaving Zhang Fulu, who was kicked and twisted to the side. You don't want to live anymore, you dare to beat people, sister-in-law ran out and shouted with her fingers. Lu Feng gritted her teeth, you idiot, dare to do it, you want to rebel. Cursing people in his mouth, scratching when he comes up. Lu Feng looked at her with a sneer, raised his hand and slapped her in the face. Snapped. This sound was particularly loud, and the elder sister-in-law who hit her was dazzled, but her mouth was still rude. You are useless, I tell you, you are completely. Snapped. Another slap in the face. After a few slaps, the elder sister-in-law's face was a little swollen, she stared at Lu Feng, daring to speak. Zhang Fuqiao got up and went into the house, and saw Xie Hong crying, brother-in-law, something happened, do you have power in the local area? What's wrong? Xie Hong heard a commotion in the yard just now. Someone is chasing my sister and making trouble. He's a second-rate. A second-rate guy still needs to find power? Break his leg. Xie Hong waved his hand impatiently and said, when I go out to deal with it, tell him that if I have money, I will buy him a leg. Zhang Fuqiao nodded, thinking in his heart that he was really rich, and rich is arrogance. There was a lot of noise in the yard. Song Swimei, Zhang Ergu, and Zhang Fuqiao's two sons all ran out. Seeing that his mother was beaten in the face, the eldest son stared at Lu Feng with a distorted expression and cursed, how dare you hit my mom and I'll kill you. He was just a teenager, and Lu Feng was very upset by playing a lot that day. Lu Feng is very small-minded. If it wasn't for Zhang Xiaoyan's face, the family would have let him smoke 800 times, and now this kid dares to come to the door. Go to Nima. Lu Feng scolded him and kicked him to the ground. He was slapped on the face as soon as he got up, and he could only lie on the ground and cry bitterly. That hole, where did you die? Your wife and son were beaten. The elder sister-in-law lay on the ground and patted her thigh with her hands and cried, I can't live anymore, bullying people, is there someone who can call me? There were already people lying on the courtyard wall watching the excitement, and there were people at the door poking their heads, murmuring and talking endlessly. Zhang Xiaoyan's son-in-law is really useless this time, no one can save him. It's definitely going to be a divorce this time. People have long seen him unhappy. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 102. The yard was a mess. Zhang Ergu and Song Swimei also ran out, and seeing Lu Feng dared to make a fuss, their hearts burst out. They never dreamed that this waste had such courage. You beat your children, are you crazy? Song Swimei looked at her grandson's face turning red, very distressed, and cursed, death to the whole family. Zhang Fuqiao rushed out of the room, staggered a bit, and shouted, Lu Feng, I tell you, you are useless, my brother-in-law has already spoken out, and spent money to buy you a leg, don't be shy, you have money in front of people, you are an ant. What? Did my brother-in-law really say that? Sister-in-law looked overjoyed, got up from the ground, and looked at Lu Feng with a beaming expression, did you hear me? You're useless, it's too late to get out now. If people really get angry, they'll be in a wheelchair in the next life. Everyone's expressions were a bit teasing, staring at him like condescending judges. Song Swimei took a few steps forward and shouted, I tell you, get out now and take that daughter of yours with you, my family. Do not care. Lu Feng looked at those faces. He knew that poverty is a sin before, but now he realizes that his experience is not that profound. In their eyes, Lu Feng was still the former Lu Feng, and it was engraved in their minds like a stereotype. Even if they drove back, they would subconsciously think that it was borrowed, rented, and used to save face. The family taught Lu Feng a lesson that morality is something that not everyone has. Why? You want to break your leg? Don't you believe it? For others, tens of thousands of yuan is no different from a few dollars. Can a poor ghost like you understand? Same, sister-in-law stood there with a cold snort, as if she had tolerated a lot. She felt like she had become the incarnation of Xie Heng, looking down at Lu Feng, the aunt. Lu Feng sighed, took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit one, and said, "Since that's all said, I'm not going to pretend. I bought the car outside. To be honest, it will be back in a year. For these few days, I want to get along with you as an ordinary person, and I am afraid that you will curry favor with me, but now I tell you, I am rich, I am rich." Ha 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 ha. Everyone laughed, not only the Zhang family, but even the neighbors who were onlookers laughed. This kind of talk is unbelievable, especially at this time. As soon as Zhang Xiaoyan came out, she heard Lu Feng's words. She stood at the door of the house blankly, her eyes were a little red. She looked at Lu Feng and said, "Let's go home, we have been home this year." "Go back, don't listen to his nonsense." Song Swame pushed Zhang Xiaoyan home. "Don't be in a hurry to go home for the new year, isn't it that a rich man wants to buy me a leg?" Lu Feng said solemnly. "Let me see how much money this person has and where he is. Get out of here, I'm afraid I'll make people pee their pants. Don't find steps for yourself, our Zhang family doesn't want you, get out. Just like you still want to compare yourself with others. I'm afraid that you don't want to live anymore. They can kill you with their fingers. Still here, right? You wait." Zhang Fuqiao turned around and opened the door and said, "I'm going to find my brother-in-law, damn it." In the room, Xie Heng had just put on a pair of shoes. He drank a bit at noon and moved slowly. Seeing this, Zhang Fuqiao crouched on the ground in a dog-legged manner and said, "Brother-in-law, don't worry, I'll put it on for you, the other party is still outside. The scolding is particularly ugly, you must teach him a good lesson, or else you will pester my sister. Don't worry, I'm your brother-in-law. Don't touch either of your two sisters. If you dare to provoke me, I will let him spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair." Zhang Xiaoyan came out again. Zhang Ergu and Song Swame were shoving. "Don't stop me," Zhang Xiaoyan shouted to Lu Feng, "don't fight with people, come and pull me out." "Don't worry, I just want to see who this brother-in-law is," Lu Feng said solemnly. The elder sister-in-law looked at Lu Feng with contempt and muttered something about courting death. The second sister-in-law saw that her man didn't go in to get close to her brother-in-law, so she hurried over and said, "What are you doing here? Come inside, what a great opportunity." Zhang Fulu immediately understood, opened the door and saw that the eldest brother had come out with Xie Heng, turned his head and shouted, "Tell you, it's useless." Neighbors all poked their heads out, wondering what it was like to be rich. However, more people looked at Lu Feng. In front of rich people, a guy like him was simply vulnerable. Xie Heng slammed the door open and scolded, "Damn, it's really courting death to break ground on the Tai Sui Lord. Who dares to yell at Lao Tzu, believe it or not?" Before he finished speaking, when Xie Heng saw Lu Feng, Xie Heng's legs softened and he knelt directly on the ground. "Quick! Get up!" Zhang Fuqiao reacted immediately and squatted down to help, but Xie Heng's body seemed to be growing on the ground and could not be dragged up. When Lu Feng saw it was him, he was also a little surprised. He smiled and said, "If you let you go, you ran to my house again, and you have to spend money to break my leg. President Xie, how much are you going to spend on this one from me?" "2 legs. Lu, President Lu," Xie Heng exclaimed. Mr. Lu?" Everyone present was a little confused. "Where is Mr. Lu? He's just a second bastard." If his wife hadn't worked 2 jobs to support him, he would have starved to death. Brother-in-law, are you drinking too much? Zhang Fuqiao whispered. I didn't drink too much. Xieheng not only didn't drink too much, but now he's completely awake, remembering that Lu Feng had made a few calls, the earthquake in Baiwen City, not to mention that he was on other people's land now. His back was soaked with cold sweat. Xieheng struggled to stand up, with a very serious expression on his face, bowed to Lu Feng, and said, Mr. Lu, I really didn't know it was your family, and I didn't know that you also liked this woman. She is my wife, Lu Feng said solemnly. Ah, Xieheng was almost scared to pee, and then bowed to Zhang Xiaoyan to apologize. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, I'm blind, please take care of the offense, I didn't know you were President Lu's wife. I'm sorry everyone, I'm making a fool of myself, I'm letting you see a joke. I really didn't know that this is Mr. Lu's home. Thank you for your hospitality. I suddenly remembered that I have something to do. I'll go back first. This money is considered as a reward for your hospitality. Xieheng putting the money in Song Suimei's hand, he said, I wish you a happy second husband like the East China Sea and a long life like Nanshan. I like Xieheng very much, and I hope to marry her next year. Xieheng was polite for a while, then turned around and ran away, not even daring to turn his head back. The huge yard was full of people, but it was silent. Everyone's faces were full of shock. Even Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't react. She didn't understand why Xieheng was so afraid of Lu Feng. Ghostly. Isn't that true? Zhang Fuqiao muttered. How can that be possible? Absolutely impossible. What an international joke. Lu Feng? That bastard who used to eat, drink, prostitute and gamble? People who rely on their wives to support themselves are getting ahead. Seeing this group of people like this, Lu Feng took the lead and said, do you have to be like this? It's not good to talk to you guys. If you have to show my identity, it will be comfortable for you to flatter each other? Okay, me. Lu Feng. Hundreds of millions. Rich man, showdown. Everyone felt that I exploded in their minds, and the impact was full. Billionaire. Are there really billionaires in this world? Lu Feng, in fact, we were joking with you, sister-in-law said first, but she didn't believe it herself. She was the one who sneered the most. Xiaoyan, do you know all this? Zhang Fulu looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and said. Everyone's eyes were on her. Zhang Xiaoyan nodded and said, he started making money half a year ago. He made more than 200,000 in 10 days, and now he has opened a factory. Earn more than 200,000 in 10 days? This number constantly challenges the nerves of the people present. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Oh, really, why didn't you tell me? Song Suimei looked at her reproachfully, and said dissatisfiedly, I didn't notify the family about such a big thing. After he finished speaking, he walked over to Lu Feng, with a full smile on his face, and said, son-in-law, I thought you were not an ordinary person at first, and you were definitely not something in the pool. As expected, it was that person who drank too much and caused a little conflict today. Don't take it to heart, we are still a family. Yes, yes, I said before that Lu Feng will come out sooner or later. Just looking at his appearance, he is very promising. Not only is his ability outstanding, but he is also extremely handsome. The elder sister-in-law smiled like a nightmare. Generally, Big Brother is not very good at talking. Don't take it to heart. Brother, be considerate. I am a rough man. Yesterday, my family's ambitions were a lot. It was my child who was wrong. Big Brother apologized to you. It's our fault. I'll take care of that little bastard in a while. Today, it's even more extreme. I dare to do something to your uncle. It's the opposite. Sister-in-law scolded the child a few words. Lu Feng, it's really not right today, but you and Xiao Yan have a good relationship. We are still a family. We can't let outsiders see jokes when we break our bones and connect our tendons. Are you right? The second sister-in-law persuaded. Yeah, it's not. What factory do you run? How many people? Zhang Fulu asked. The others stared at him with their necks stretched out. Lu Feng didn't look like Xie Heng. Xie Heng and the others were afraid. They wouldn't give it if they were in a bad mood. Lu Feng was different. Just a few soft words and an apology. 2 factories, one has 800 or 900 people, and the other has 400 or 500 people, Lu Feng said casually. Oh, that's quite big, no wonder people make a lot of money. You see that you are such a big factory, and you don't tell your family. Sister-in-law looked ecstatic and said directly, after the new year, let your elder brother go to your place to take care of yourself. You give 1,800 a month, not much. Your second brother means the same thing, we are all a family, who are you not going to help us? Second sister-in-law felt that she was almost at a loss, and said, also arrange something for me, it's just a matter of your words. Lu Feng looked at the faces and sneered, go away. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 103. Sister-in-law didn't panic when they saw Lu Feng like this, and turned to look at Zhang Xiaoyan. He had to agree if he didn't agree with his own family. As for Zhang Xiaoyan, her character has always been cowardly. When the 2 elder brothers speak, plus her parents' orders, can she not listen? Okay, this is over. Song Swimei waved her hand and started talking to the muddy, saying, let outsiders see jokes, my family members have broken bones and tendons. Lu Feng, don't say anything angry. At the end of the year, I made arrangements for your 2 big brothers, and I thought you must be promising, so I married Xiao Yan to you. Hey, according to this, you are the one who knows the pearls. Lu Feng sneered and said without any face, I remember that you went to my house to make a lot of trouble for the dowry money. If I didn't know a few people, my buddy, I'm afraid you will be abolished. It's all over, don't mention it. Zhang Ergu also came over and said, one right off. Don't, if you suffer a loss, just hold on to it. If I suffer a loss, just write it off. It doesn't make sense, right? Also, don't ask me to arrange any work for them, just such a fool, any arrangement is a waste. Money, Lu Feng said ruthlessly, I won't play with you anymore. Xiao Yan, what do you think of Lu Feng's words? This can hurt my self-esteem, and I can't solve it without 500. Zhang Fuqiao said to Zhang Xiao Yan, speak, you can't even control your own man. Song Swimei walked over and stabbed her with her hand, and said in a low voice, don't turn your elbows out. Zhang Xiaoyan raised her head and looked at her family, her eyes were red, she had no tears, she bit her lip and pondered for a while and said, let's go back. After saying that, he hugged Duo. What's going on with this job? Say something, sister-in-law said from the side, isn't it amazing, is it rich, that's all? Running around and pretending? Zhang Xiaoyan, are you a person? A family is not a thing, ungrateful chops. I don't know what the situation is. Maybe that Xie Heng admits the wrong person. How long did it take to send it out? The lottery won't be so fast, the second sister-in-law said on the side, I don't dare to make arrangements, I'm afraid it will be from the beginning to the end. Really? Don't say it's false, even if it's true, what's the arrogance, what's so great, it's not an official anymore, it's in power, Song Swimei shouted sharply, what's the use? Seeing someone who is an official is different from a pug. That's right, that's the nest, arrogant with us, and go out to cattle. In front of us is a figure, in front of others, not even a dog. Listening to these words, Lu Feng turned a deaf ear and looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and whispered, "Are you sure you want to go back for the new year? Don't come here again after the new year, I won't arrange any jobs for them. Go back for the new year, I'm tired." The reason why Zhang Fuqiao and the others wanted to scold them was because of their control over Zhang Xiaoyan. They knew in their hearts that Zhang Xiaoyan was weak, and even after scolding her, she would still do it after a few days. A large group of people had already gathered at the gate. Half of the people on the street had come. Some people said that the Zhang family was not a thing, and some people scolded Lu Feng, saying that he was prosperous and pretending to be an uncle here. "Come on. Please let me go," a voice came from behind. "This is Boss Lu's wife's house, isn't it? Is it Jiang's house? Come on, let's go." When everyone heard this, they turned their heads to look, and saw a middle-aged man dressed like a leader, followed by 3 or 4 people, who all made way. "Mr. Lu? What's going on? It's so lively, this town is really full of flavor." Zhu Haiqiang stepped forward with a happy face and said, "It looks like a big happy event has happened, congratulations first." Lu Feng looked at him and said coldly, "Our family is fighting, what's there to congratulate?" Zhu Haiqiang looked at the situation around him again. It seemed that the crowd outside the door was indeed watching the fun, and Li Yong was a little embarrassed to bring people over. "Who are you? What are you doing?" Zhang Fuqiao asked. "This is the mayor of our county. Magistrate Li, this is Director Zhao of the Industry and Commerce Bureau, Director Sun of the Power Grid Administration." Li Yong looked at Lu Feng a little embarrassed, and hurriedly stretched out his hands apologetically, "We have no other intentions, we just want to come and see and recognize the door. Mr. Lu, don't think too much, I don't mean to doubt you." "Mayor. In the eyes of everyone, this is a high-altitude existence. It is too difficult to see him on weekdays. Whoever sees that others are not polite, in the eyes of everyone, this is the emperor." However, this invincible existence is now holding Lu Feng's hand and apologizing, with a smile on his face, as if he is afraid of offending Lu Feng. This made the people present unable to turn their heads. Even if he is rich, he is just a businessman, should Lu Feng curry favor with him? Zhang Fuqiao and Zhang Fulu stayed on the spot. They understood that Lu Feng was no longer something they could climb high. Even Zhang Xiaoyan. With his current money situation, as long as he wants to, he doesn't know how many little girls are waiting in line. Sister-in-law's heart is dripping with regret, and she can't wait to slap herself twice. If she had a good word with Lu Feng from the beginning, wouldn't it be a trivial matter to be successful? When the couple came back, they did not reveal their identities, but they were afraid that they would be too unfamiliar. Even just now, if she admits a mistake, maybe she can save it, but she thinks Zhang Xiaoyan can take down Lu Feng. As for Zhang Xiaoyan, isn't she listening to her family? But now, Lu Feng's strength is beyond Zhang Xiaoyan's control. Lu Feng had a few polite words with Zhu Haiqiang, and helped him with a few words. He confirmed that the project will be decided after the annual meeting. When the time comes, we will talk about it in detail, and hand over this matter to Zhu Haiqiang. Then it's settled, don't disturb Mr. Lu, you can talk about anything. If you have anything to do with us, speak up, if you need something in town, or if you have something to do, just say it, you're welcome. Don't worry, see you later, see you next year. Lu Feng waved his hand and watched Zhu Haiqiang and the others leave. You want to build a factory in the county? Zhang Xiaoyan asked in surprise. It's just a name. Just now that Zhu Haiqiang was about to be promoted. During the recent inspection, he wanted to pull some projects to stabilize himself. After the new year, it will be over. Lu Feng looked at the people around him staring at him with shocked faces. He opened his mouth and said, "Take Duo Duo to the car." Zhang Xiaoyan nodded and got into the car. Lu Feng looked at Zhang Ergu's family without much expression on his face. Sister-in-law wanted to say something nice, but seeing Lu Feng's cold face, she didn't move. Lu Feng got into the car, stepped on the accelerator, and sped away. Song Swimei sat on the ground and howled, "What's the use of having a daughter? The water splashed by a married daughter is useless at all, the two sons are more wasteful than the other." Zhang Xiaohong stood at the door of the house and looked at everything in front of her. Looking at her mother, she had already thought that as long as Xiaohong married her, she would marry herself and stay away from this home. On the way back, there were few people, not to mention the vehicles. Only the cold air made people have nowhere to hide. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at the scenery outside the window, and she couldn't help but redden her eyes. "Mom, don't cry." Lu Feng wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know what to say. She was right, she had done her best as a child, and she could only say that fate would not assign everyone a qualified mother. Lu Feng thought that Zhang Xiaoyan was out of anger and would ask him to help her two brothers, but she didn't. Maybe she had already figured it out. Making dumplings, cooking, and pasting Spring Festival couplets, Zhang Xiaoyan has always been ingenious, and the family of three is busy, but it is fun and has an indescribable taste of the new year. On the evening of New Year's Eve, the Spring Festival Gala was broadcast on TV. This year, Zhao Benchen appeared on the Spring Festival Gala for the first time. Now the Spring Festival Gala is a real family fun, which is extraordinarily lively. Bunch of fireworks can be seen exploding outside the window, the children's frolic is heard, and people can be heard walking around in the corridor, making an agreement to play mahjong at someone's house. He had already gone downstairs to set off a cannonball battle. He was tired from playing for a long time. He lay on the sofa and fell asleep. Lu Feng stood in front of the window, watching the bright moon hanging high, and the sound from the TV behind him. Friends from the audience, it's another year of Spring Festival Gala. I'm here to say goodbye to you. This year is the year of the horse. Let's be successful this year, the spirit of the dragon and horse, and let's see you in the year of the sheep. Zhang Xiaoyan breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Lu Feng and said, "It's over, hurry up and go to bed, there's nothing to do these few days, take a good rest and save yourself from being busy." Lu Feng turned to look at her and said, "Do you hate me? What is this called? Actually, I should have gone to my house, but we already have our own, so I didn't call my mother. I don't want to think too much, I will be tired if I think too much, just feel at ease." Zhang Xiaoyan seems to be very emotional. Under the influence of Lu Feng these days, she seems to be less shy, at least in front of Lu Feng, she smiled. After a while, it was different and cute, and said, "I only know, I love you." "Really?" Lu Feng grinned, walked up to her and said, "Kiss." Zhang Xiaoyan glanced at Duo to make sure she was asleep, and pouted and kissed. "Enough is enough." "That's enough," Lu Feng suddenly picked her up, making Zhang Xiaoyan exclaimed in surprise. "What are you doing? Go home and sleep. I think something is wrong with your state." "Is something wrong?" Lu Feng squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "It was all right. Since you want something, let's do something. 2. Don't use too many excuses, lock the door." "I don't care," Lu Feng said and threw her on the bed. It's not so good for the New Year's Eve. Zhang Xiaoyan was a little shy, but when he thought that he was going crazy, he couldn't bear it in the village. Entertainment is the only way to be entertained during the Chinese New Year. This is the way of entertainment in our family. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 104. Tonight's night is extraordinarily lively, the fireworks have never been interrupted, many people are still rubbing mahjong, the rich are lively in the dance hall, the children are wearing new clothes, and they can't bear to sleep. The restless night sky made the moon a little restless. It shone brightly on this land. Every house was lit with lights. Only Lu Feng's house was dark and eye-catching. Inside the room, Zhang Xiaoyan, who was in the dark, was a little confused again, panting heavily. She felt that the whole room was very hot, and at this moment, an unprecedented feeling ran over her body. That kind of impulsive blood all came to the man in front of him. In the dark, her pretty face was a bit blushing. I don't know if she was shy or her blood was surging, which made her look extremely beautiful. Her long hair was loose, and her face without any extra makeup was as delicate as a work of art, and people couldn't help but indulge. Go in. The kiss, as if branded into the soul, made her tremble. This year is the 5th year of marriage. It should have gradually calmed down to meet the 7-year itch, but Zhang Xiaoyan's spring water has just made waves. That feeling hit like a tidal wave, drowning her whole body, making her heart beat faster, and couldn't help hugging him tightly. There is a poem Cloud, insisting that the green mountain does not relax, and the root is in the broken rock. A coquettish rebuke seemed a bit painful, but it also carried a bit of surprise and encouragement. His fingers gripped Lu Feng's arm tightly, his fingernails had already pierced into his flesh, and the tingling sensation made him suck in the cold air, but he deeply understood the reason why he was so imposing. There was a high-pitched sound in the room, followed by ups and downs, a little painful, but it was extremely exciting, making people red. Zhang Xiaoyan bit her lip, her face twisted, and she patted with her hands. Son of a bitch. Stop. Duo slept very well. She was very tired in the village these few days, and she was not used to sleeping on the Kong. When she opened her eyes, she found that it was already dawn, and she was lying on the sofa, unable to see her mother. Wow! Duo started to cry, jumped off the sofa and walked towards the bedroom, calling out to mother, soybean-sized tears streaming down his face. Don't cry, Mom is here. Zhang Xiaoyan hurriedly greeted and wanted to sit up, but her expression changed, and the corners of her mouth sucked in cold air, and said, Mom is here, come here. Duo climbed into the bed and threw himself into Zhang Xiaoyan's arms before he stopped crying, looked up at her and said, Mom, what's wrong with you? Mom, I'm not feeling well. Zhang Xiaoyan saw the guy beside her still sleeping, raised her hand and slapped him, and shouted, Go and cook. Huh, Lu Feng opened his eyes in a daze and said, You can do it. When did I start making breakfast? What time is it? Can I do it for you? Zhang Xiaoyan blushed when she saw him, and her whole person had an indescribable aura, which made her even more moving. Lu Feng opened his eyes and looked at him, showing his arms to her, and said, It's all bloody. You deserve it. If you enjoy this, you have to suffer this crime. Zhang Xiaoyan slapped him and said, Go. Cooking dumplings. Lu Feng got up and looked at her and said, Does it hurt? Nonsense, it hurts to sit up. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at him a little embarrassedly, and whispered, I feel swollen, apply it for a while. Lu Feng couldn't help laughing. You're still laughing? I don't understand people's language, come on, make it look like I'm not your wife. Zhang Xiaoyan rolled his eyes at him and said, Quickly cook, I don't want to look at you. There were already several children waiting in the living room, waiting for Duo to go out to play. Lu Feng cooked dumplings and ran out to play after eating Duo. After feeding Zhang Xiaoyan and applying a compress to her, it's not over. The Chinese New Year is actually quite boring. The 4 words of eating, drinking, and having fun sum it up. Zhang Xiaoyan only recovered on the 3rd day of the New Year. Lu Feng was thinking that he should send Duo to school this year. He is 5 years old. Zhang Xiaoyan disagreed. She thought that Lu Feng sent Duo to school in order to facilitate him to do bad things. When she learned that Lu Feng was really afraid that she would miss school, she got a big blush. Song Swimei finally called Zhang Xiaoyan. In fact, Zhang Fuqiao and Jiang Road came to the city just after the New Year, but unfortunately they went to their original home. After asking for a long time, I don't know where I live now, so I had to give up. Song Swimei's idea was very simple. Arrange some work for the two of them. On the phone, they kept saying that they were a family. Lu Feng watched her hang up the phone. This was the first time Zhang Xiaoyan had rejected someone. She was someone who didn't understand rejection, and she would endure anything in silence. Don't worry, Xieheng will definitely marry your sister. It's not that bad. If I let them into my factory, it will drag me down, Lu Feng said. I know the weight. After the new year, you can go to kindergarten and send Duo to school. After the summer, let her go to the first grade, and you can come in free time, Lu Feng ordered. What do I do with so much free time? I'm not going to work now, will I have a baby for you? Zhang Xiaoyan rolled his eyes at him. You can read more books when you have time, and walk around with the rich wives. I tell you, the business world mainly depends on relationships, what kind of wives group, what kind of fellow country group, what kind of industry group. Lu Feng thought very simply. He worked hard in the industry and asked Zhang Xiaoyan to contact those rich wives. Don't underestimate these women. Once you start blowing the pillow, it can change the outcome of many things. I don't like to gather with them very much. I drink every day or something. I heard from Sister Lan that some of them are still raising little white faces outside, Zhang Xiaoyan said with disgust. It's okay if you don't take care of it, the world is full of darkness, so you just hide at home and don't do anything. Lu Feng sat next to her and said, you are responsible for being a rich wife and start learning to drive this year. Come on, I'll drive the car for you. Although Zhang Xiaoyan was a little twisted, she also understood that she had to be on her own, otherwise there would be other women on her own, which was not what she wanted. And she has already tried to make herself a little more coquettish, at least in front of Lu Feng. She is very smart, but she has never seen the world and is used to fighting everything by herself. In a blink of an eye, it was the 6th day of the first lunar month. The factory was about to start. Lu Feng and the others called each other. The factory was restarted and all the work had to be done well, so that it could return to the production state of the previous year within a week. Gao Jiwei is still there. South. Hey, how's it going this year? Did you add a son and a half-daughter to yourself, by the way? Lu Feng teased into the phone. Hello, are you President Lu? A woman's voice came from the other end of the phone, and said with a southern accent, Jiwei will be here in a while. Lu Feng felt that it was Gao Jiwei's wife and was a little embarrassed. He said, you are Mr. Gao's wife, right? Hello, Happy New Year. Yes, I am. Mr. Lu has a good New Year. Jiwei told me that you are a good boss and treat him well. Thank you, Mr. Lu, for taking care of him. Jiwei is here, you two can talk. Gao Jiwei's wife put the phone on the table, looked at Gao Jiwei and asked, what nonsense are you talking to people when you come back? What did I say? Gao Jiwei looked confused. I don't know if I'm pregnant or not. Say anything, really. On the phone, Lu Feng almost laughed out loud when he heard the gossip. He didn't expect that he guessed it right, but also, the two hadn't seen each other for more than half a year, so they must be sticking together every day. Hey, what did you tell my wife? Gao Jiwei asked. It's nothing, can I still play that kind of joke with my sister-in-law? But you have a loose grasp on family planning, so you can ask for another one. You uncle. Seriously, Lu Feng said sternly, don't indulge in women's pornography. The factory will start tomorrow. After the 15th day of the first lunar month, you have to bring someone over for me, you know. I know a few of them. I've known them before. They're all veterans. They all have a large network of connections. Money is more expensive. Don't worry, the price is not a problem, the key is that they can negotiate with me and meet my requirements. Lu Feng thought about it and asked, how many people? Or a team? I know 3 people, 3 of them can bring 3 people, 6 people. As for the team or personal relationship behind them, I don't know. Okay, 6. On the phone, Gao Jiwei also calculated that the first branch will be opened in Henan and Shandong provinces with large populations. The market prospects are great, and it is close to the southern market. Maybe it will flow in and compete in the market. Let's invest in 2 factories first, and the products should be updated. Didn't you decide on a small can at the end of last year? I think it's very good. I think, let's make a 3-year plan. Lu Feng put the phone there and didn't listen at all. He had his own plans, but he didn't dare to tell him, for fear that he would be a posthumous manager, and it would not be easy for him to be the boss. Half an hour later, Gao Jiwei's voice was smoking, and Lu Feng picked up the phone and said, "Well said, I'll talk about it when the meeting comes. You're busy first, remember to bring someone." After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng felt that he should go to the factory and take out the map that was planned years ago to study it. Gao Jiwei believes that we should come up with a mainstream product, set up the factory in the southernmost part of the north, and try to compete, and it is self-evident with whom to compete. In fact, in addition to state-owned enterprises, there are only a few large-scale food factories in China. It is obvious that the hot products in which regions are the lice on the monks' heads. The Wahaha factory office has resumed work. It is the most powerful food company in China and ranks first in the list of emerging food companies. Of course, it is incomparable with some old-fashioned food companies, such as Hualong Foods, Arctic Ocean Soda, Coca-Cola, and even big companies such as Uni-President Foods and Master Kong Foods that are about to enter the market. The fighting can be said to be fierce. You must keep an eye on every opponent, or you will be doomed. On the list on the table, except for Wahaha, the first emerging food company, the second is a factory called GMA Food, a small factory that no one has heard of. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 105. There were a lot of people sitting in the office, and a man in his 40s was sitting in front of the desk. Just after the new year, everyone didn't have many smiles on their faces, instead they were frowning. GMA Foods? I've never heard of this factory. Now we don't even have a competitor when we look around. The product is in a state of perfection in the market. I feel that this factory is just plugging money into this list. I think so. The name of this factory is a bit familiar. By the way, Gao Jiwei from the marketing department seems to have gone to this factory. SHH. Be quiet. Everyone murmured, they had never heard of this factory. As for Gao Jiwei's job jumping here, it's not worth mentioning. There are too many people going out from Wahaha, so what's the use? Zhong naturally also knew that he was not very comfortable with Gao Jiwei's departure, and he knew more about this factory later, and got some news through many channels. After reading the news, he thought that Gao Jiwei was deceived, and he came back by himself after a while. However, this factory has actually risen. This is the most terrifying place. What is even more terrifying is that their products are so eye-catching in the market that they are simply a copy of Northern Wahaha. Mr. Zone, it's just a small business. As mentioned above, the estimated value is between 10 million and 20 million, and there are only 2 factories, adding up to less than 2,000 people. Yes, we merged the canning factory this year, and the number of employees is tens of thousands. Let me tell you a piece of news. In June last year, the owner of GMA Food was said to be too hungry to eat. He earned more than 200,000 yuan in August, built a factory in the same month, and collapsed the largest local food factory at the end of October. At that time, we acquired the raw material processing plant in Baiwan City. This speed really startled everyone present. Which leader's family is this? The expressions on everyone's faces are all like this speed, and it's so smooth, you don't need to ask to know what's going on. If it's the leader's family, Would I still pay so much attention? He doesn't have any background. He's crazy and does things stably and ruthlessly. I'm sure that we've been targeted, and this year is definitely sad. The document was placed on the table and said, the cannery will buy it as soon as possible. Has the price been set? The asking price is 80 million, let's talk about it again. Let's not talk about it, 80 million is 80 million. Speed up production. The goal set last year was to meet the southern market. Now it must be changed, not only to meet the southern market. Shen Sheng said, I have to go north. 80 million is just a big wave of his hand. If Lu Feng is so arrogant, he would have to walk with background music, but they are really arrogant and have no tricks. Gao Jiwei was very well informed. In the afternoon, someone called him to ask him about GMA food, and briefly explain the situation. Gao Jiwei learned that Mr. Zhong actually used a small northern factory like GMA Foods as his opponent. Also dislocation competition, the only thing that can make the two families fight is him. After all, Lu Feng poached him. Furthermore, in Gao Jiwei's eyes, Wahaha's attack on GMA Food is like an adult beating a child, just hammering. He said that what he felt was only what he could feel as a manager, while a real entrepreneur could feel murderous aura. Mr. Zhong sensed murderous aura from Lu Feng. A man who has risen wildly in half a year has more than a small ambition. He has never met Lu Feng, but he knows Lu Feng better than Gao Jiwei, because they are the same person. Such people, even if they do not become opponents this year, will confront each other sooner or later, so it is better to kill them first. The next morning, Lu Feng arrived at the factory early. Datu and Han Dong had already arrived, and all the employees had arrived. On the first day of the new year, I had to be lucky enough to set off firecrackers, and after a few words, Lu Feng entered the office. I took the map out of my desk. It is unrealistic to start all 16 factories. It is divided into 4 batches, and the subsequent raw material processing has to keep up. The supply chain is the root of long-term stability. This is very clear to Lu Feng. The phone on the table rang, and Lu Feng picked it up and said, "Who is it?" "Mr. Lu, it's me." Gao Jiwei's voice came from the other end of the phone. "I called your home and said that you are in the factory. It feels very important to tell you something." "What's wrong? Those people can't settle down? Or do they think they have less money?" Lu Feng asked casually. "My former colleagues talked to me today, and one of them lived downstairs of my house. Just after we finished talking, what list they received internally, like Forbes, the potential list of emerging food companies in the country, we ranked first. Second, the first is Wahaha. They held a meeting in the morning, and President Zhong took us as a target. I heard that 80 million bought a cannery to expand production, not only to meet the southern market, but also to go north." "What?" Lu Feng's voice increased several times, his head was buzzing, he hadn't moved yet. "Why did he do it first? You go back as soon as possible and bring back all those negotiating people. You can't say a few words on the phone, and then you will have a meeting," Lu Feng said solemnly. "I think our small factory has such a big market, and the products are in dislocation and competition, so it won't affect it." "Mr. Zhong has made a big fuss," Gao Jiwei muttered. "Don't talk nonsense, he's not a fool, that's all." Lu Feng hung up the phone. Lu Feng's original good mood was ruined in an instant, and an unprecedented sense of urgency emerged. The first half of this year will be particularly tragic. He has already seen that kind of scene, and the market competition will be fierce. Originally, he thought that he wanted to build several factories and invade the market like boiling frogs in warm water, but the other party did not give him a chance at all. With a long sigh, Lu Feng leaned back on the chair and rubbed his forehead with his hands. The current GMA Food is too weak to play against Wahaha. It's big with Xiaobo. Lu Feng stood up and walked out of the office, shouting, "Call the director of product design, as well as those in product development, and by the way, get the big ones." Lu Feng knew that the internal reorganization must be carried out as soon as possible. If a company wants to operate quickly, it must make drastic improvements in the internal structure and face the market with the most aggressive attitude. If you want to control the major factories, you must have a strong finance, otherwise Lu Feng, who is greedy in the major factories, can't even find his pants. The big head must leave, he is not suitable for this kind of fierce business competition, and everyone present must be an elite. A few minutes later, Data came in. After a year, he looked a little fatter, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Brother Feng, are you looking for me?" "Sit down." Lu Feng sat down and saw the product design group walking in. He waved his hands and said, "Go to the reception room and wait, come in later, and close the door for me." After closing the door, Data sat there feeling a little apprehensive. Although he is nominally the manager of the finance department, he has handed over the specific matters to his subordinate, who used to be the deputy financial director of a state-owned enterprise. It was also rumored in the factory that Lu Feng wanted to let him go, and he had to leave for those who were incapable, which scared Han Dong to work extra hard. He just managed the production. "Big head, we've known each other for a few years, right?" Lu Feng looked at him and said, "It seems like we were only familiar with the brothers back then, and we haven't contacted each other anymore." Data had already sensed something, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Zhou Jiangguo and the others are still like that. I didn't go to drink during the New Year. They also told me to go through the back door. If there is anything in the factory, they can do it. Oh, this year's situation is a bit difficult. I also said bluntly that the finance will be merged into other factories next, not only for accounting, but also for supervision. You give up the position of manager." "Okay, I can't read the ledger anymore. Li is in charge of the old finances. He understands a lot of things. You are still a shareholder, and you pay dividends every year. Brother, I am not driving you away. I have always kept your support and help to me in my heart. Now there are two choices. To maintain this area, if there is a lack of a supervisor, you should go to further education, learn accounting, or something." Lu Feng looked at him, his words were a little difficult to say. Lu Feng is so cruel to everyone, including Gao Jiwei, but only facing the big head, he has an indescribable feeling in his heart, this person is stupid. I'm not interested in machines. The people who repair the production line are in their 40s, and I can't chat with them. Data said glumly, "I'd better go and learn more. The downside is that I'm still very interested in accounting, so what, am I not going to use it tomorrow? Come here if you want. 5% of this factory will always be yours. I'll contact you when the time comes, and a training school will introduce you to it." "Okay, then you can talk to them first, I'll go first." Data stood up silently and walked out. Big head. "Brother Feng, what's the matter?" "Brother Feng, I really didn't drive you away. Don't think so in your heart. Study hard. GMA welcomes you back at any time, even if I leave GMA one day," Lu Feng said sincerely. "I must study hard." Big head grinned, opened the door and walked out. Lu Feng always felt a little panic in his chest, and he took a long sigh of relief to feel more comfortable. He raised his head and saw the design director walking in with 5 or 6 people. After talking, he took out the product design draft from years ago. At the end of last year, Lu Feng designed a prototype for this year's products, including canned food for children. The ultra-high profits of canned food still make Lu Feng unforgettable, not to mention that GMA Food only has some old-fashioned foods, such as Hawthorne, Crunch, small steamed buns, shrimp chips, potato chips, etc., and they are all in small packages, the most expensive ones 2 or 3 cents, the cheapest 5 cents. The product to be made now is small canned food, which is a relatively expensive product. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 106. In this era of poor information, the advantage is that his opponents can't get the details of himself immediately. The reason why Lu Feng pretends to be a big man and cheats everywhere is because of this kind of information. The shortcomings are also fatal. Others can't understand him more, and he can't understand others. He doesn't know some strategic decisions of the other party, wahaha, and he doesn't even know Zhong's thoughts and attitudes. Even if he reads the local newspaper every day, it is relatively disaster. With the opening of the market and the arrival of a new round of children's food outbreaks, the factory quickly resumed production. At the end of last year, a batch of customized work clothes were also delivered. The factory has finally become formalized, and various systems have been improved rapidly. Although in the eyes of ordinary people, this is a huge factory with nearly 1,000 people, Lu Feng knows that it is too small. In the last life, he went to Foxconn to inspect, and the daily production capacity of such a large factory with nearly 100,000 people is scary. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Lu Feng had already felt a sense of crisis, and he was slowly adjusting some departments in the factory. The factory in Baiwen City had already started to operate, and the selection of the director of the factory had not yet been decided. For 2 consecutive days, the recipes have been adjusted. If the small cans want to go the high-end route, they must be delicious, and they need the most advanced assembly lines to make the oranges as soft and tender as egg custards. There was a pot of cans on the table, and a bunch of messy products. All the supervisors were sitting in front of the table, looking at these things, and some people frowned. I have been trying it since last year, and it may not be delicious every time. They have tasted all kinds of strange flavors. Your research department is sure it's researching food? Not chemical weapons. What do you call it? Sometimes the formula is unpalatable, and no one has had diarrhea. Our first priority is to ensure safety. We produce it for children to eat. Just like you can be poisonous and dumb after eating it for children. It's delicious this time. President Lu thought it was not bad after eating it yesterday. Seeing that everyone didn't move, Lu Feng said, "You're welcome, eat. You see you are working, earning money, and still able to eat. How happy you are, Manager Li, eat." Director Li has officially taken over as the manager of Datu. He has worked in state-owned enterprises for nearly 20 years, mainly dealing with banks. He has always felt that a person who is almost 50 years old will only deal with money in this life. Who would have thought that? Try it. Let's call Data back if we really can't do it. I think this kid is quite honest, Manager Li wondered. Don't talk nonsense, this time the canned food is delicious. Our rule is, if you don't eat it yourself, how will the customer eat it? No matter which factory, if you want to develop a product, you have to eat it yourself, and you won't be able to vomit if you don't eat it. Lu Feng looked at Manager Li and said, "Are you on a business trip these 2 days? Go to Baiwen City." "Mr. Lu, I want to leave now." "Stop talking nonsense and eat." As the saying goes, it is difficult to adjust a product. Some people think that a product is delicious, and some people think it is unpalatable. If you want to make money, you have to make most people think it is delicious. The trial part is very important. In any food factory, their employees will vomit about their own products. Some factories will assign the task of how much to eat, and they will deduct money if they can't finish it. After eating, everyone agreed that the canned food is very delicious, soft and tender, and the sweetness is just right. There are also 3 or 4 kinds of snacks, and lollipops are also very good. Lu Feng also felt very satisfied. The reason why it was so delicious was because he completely followed the practice of a best-selling small can in the market 20 years later. Let's adjust the recipe and make several flavors such as sour and sweet, and bring it to me before starting production. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he looked at Manager Li and said, "This time I went to Baiwan City to focus on finances, to clarify the account book and so on, report it every month. If there is an account that is not correct, check it quickly." As he was talking, the phone rang, and Lu Feng picked up the phone and said, "Hello. Is it Boss Lu of GMA Food?" "It's me." Lu Feng was a little confused when he heard the voice on the other end, not knowing who it was. He said, "What's your surname? You are really a noble person who forgets things." "I am Wang Tianhui, the one I met at the auction." "You also said that you asked me to be the factory manager after the new year," the other party reminded. Lu Feng remembered it and said, "Well, someone from my side will come over in a few days, and then I will contact you, okay?" "Okay, thank you, Mr. Lu, Happy Chinese New Year." Lu Feng hung up the phone and said to Manager Li, "You go to contact a person named Wang Tianhui, give a chance to inspect it, and sort out the departments in the factory. By the way, or that sentence, everything is subject to evaluation. If you can't reach it, you will leave." "Okay." Lu Feng knew that without the supervision of internet attendants, he must fully trust the people around him, regardless of how they behaved, very well with a smile on his face. Once there are more branches and they go to the branch for inspection and supervision, it will be a sideways existence. Once these people deceive him and falsify the accounts, it will be very scary. "Mr. Lu, the production of this product requires a new flow sheet. When will we produce it?" asked the director of the marketing department. "Product trademark filing, and patent applications written in the company's name? Or, this canned food is not produced here, it will be put into production in a new factory, and the patent is written under the company name. As for lollipops, it can be produced in our factory. Also, last year, the products of this factory were finalized, from cheap canned food to popsicles and ice cream. Everything can be done, don't be shy. Mr. Gao hasn't come back yet, I'll tell him when the meeting is over." Everyone walked out sparsely. Lu Feng ate 2 mouthfuls of canned food, stood up and went to the toilet. He came back and sat in his seat, staring at the month sign in a daze. Suddenly remembering that I haven't called Mr. Huang for the new year this year, at least I have to say a good new year. Lu Feng felt a little rude, and hurriedly picked up the phone and called. As a result, the other side told Lu Feng that Huang Youwei was no longer in the metallurgical group, and gave him his home phone number. "Hey, Mr. Huang, Happy Chinese New Year, I wish you New Year's greetings," Lu Feng said politely. "Happy Chinese New Year too, so you still miss me? I was thinking of calling you. I'll be leaving the day after tomorrow. Shall I go out for a drink at night? I have good news for you." The voice on the other end of the phone carried somewhat emotional. "Okay, I'll treat you, Tianyu Hotel. Ro." After 5 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng's car was already parked downstairs. For half a year, he had been a frequent visitor to Tianyu Hotel, and the hostess at the door knew him. "Mr. Lu is here, long time no see, handsome again." The girl looked at him with a smile on her face. "Xiao Fang will be more beautiful in the new year, tisk tisk tisk, you should be a model at your height, it's useless to be an etiquette station," Lu Feng teased. The front office manager came over, glanced at Xiao Fang, and said with a smile, "Mr. Lu, don't know her in the same way. Please, which private room is upstairs?" "Old place," Lu Feng said and went upstairs. After a while, the manager came over to look at Xiao Fang and scolded, "You are joking with the guests during work hours. Do you really think you are so beautiful? Mr. Lu's wife is several times more beautiful than you. Don't think about some things in a day, you know." "Got it." Xiao Fang stood there, rolled her eyes and said nothing. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Huang Youwei entered the box, said a few polite words to each other, sat down, and Lu Feng poured him onto Maotai and said, "It shouldn't be called President Huang now, but Mayor Huang." "What?" Huang Yue waved his hand, but his face was full of smiles. Leaning on the chair, he looked at Lu Feng and said, "Tell me the truth, did you call Ting Ting?" "No. I don't believe it. Let me tell you, Ren Qianbo's factory was closed down by the court. People don't know where they went. Some people say they're dead, and some people say they're going abroad. You should be busy with your work." "No auction?" Lu Feng asked hurriedly. "Enough, I heard that I owe hundreds of thousands. It is estimated that it has been digested internally. You can buy it if you can. If you can't buy it, don't force it." "You don't understand the twists and turns here," Lu Feng said unhappily. "Why don't you drink it?" Lu Feng picked up the glass and drank it and asked in a low voice, "Which city did you call? Why? Are you still running with me? Follow me, can I protect you from being killed by Wahaha?" Huang Yue smiled like an old fox. Obviously he knew the market very well. All assessments now focus on attracting investment, understand? I'm also a businessman. I know. In the south, a prefecture-level city in the Yangtze River Delta, I also hope that General Manager Lu will expand his business and go to my place to build a few factories as soon as possible, so that I can get some results. You can rest assured, as long as you give land, loans, and tax exemptions, everything will be easy. Huang Yue looked at him blankly, suddenly laughed, and said, You just like adventures. You understand me again. I don't understand you, I understand people like you, free land, low interest loans, and no tax policy. It's not just for you people, I like people like you, but sometimes I feel this kind of sad. I respect you." Lu Feng raised his glass and touched it. "You, don't fawn on me, I only care how big a place you want to go, and fawning on Ting Ting may be useful. To be a small businessman, you only need to understand one street. To be a big businessman, you need to see to understand a province. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to understand the trend of the times," Huang Yue said slowly. Lu Feng nodded and said, "The times have come, and so have the challenges. It's up to the present, and the last 10 years are destined to be extremely exciting." Huang Yue picked up the wine glass, looked at Lu Feng and said, "I'll send you a couple of poems. You will be able to hit the water for 3,000 miles, and you will know each other with confidence for 200 years. 200 years is too long, 10 years is enough." Lu Feng touched the glass. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 107. If we say that after 2000, we took a rocket and went straight up, then the 1990s laid such a foundation. If you look at that era carefully, you will find that it was a rough time. The overall economic recovery, the manufacturing industry is the most advanced technology, and the opening of factories has become synonymous with the rich. The economies are mainly concentrated in service trade, food, handicrafts, textiles, rough processing, and energy and raw materials. The technical characteristics are extremely low, and it is mainly labor-intensive, which increases employment, and the rich are also created in these fields. Lu Feng chatted with Huang Yue a lot. It has to be said that this person is still very insightful and deep. Let me tell you, as long as you don't have a big problem, you are definitely a billionaire. Huang Yue clapped the table and said decisively, "I think people are very accurate. I have been the team captain since 1963, until today. I have seen a lot of people through what I have experienced, and you are a talent, but I hope you will not be rich and unkind." "I'm not rich yet," Lu Feng said with a wry smile. "Aren't you rich? You are definitely rich now. You must remember that sentence. First, the rich will lead to the rich. In the next 10 years, there will be a market for intensive labor, but the technical content is very low. No, all polluting factories and unprofitable factories are ours, and we will do the dirtiest and most tiring jobs in the world with the least amount of money. Of course, you make a lot of money, but the workers will be very tired. The world's manufacturing pattern has been finalized. If you want to develop and squeeze into the global pattern, you have to be an apprentice, but you can't be an apprentice for a lifetime. Sweep the ground all your life. Have you ever been an apprentice? Those guys don't teach you skills at all, for fear that you will learn something, so you won't listen to him. It depends on the person's face, understand? Lu Feng nodded again and again, standing at this time point, looking at the 50 years before and after Huaxia. It makes people feel very emotional. Don't think I'm a bureaucrat, I know more than you. Do you think I know how to drink Mao Tai all day long? Huang Yowei laughed, ate a few mouthfuls of food and said, I hope that after you make money, you won't spend some money in the field of making money and promote industrial upgrading, and we will also do something with technical content. Yes, Lu Feng picked up the glass and said, I respect you, and I hope you will rise step by step. It wasn't until after 9 o'clock in the evening that Lu Feng came home, washed and slept. The next morning, he arrived at the factory, still thinking about whether to buy Ren Qianbo's factory. After thinking about what Huang Yowei said last night, he still gave up. Since it is not an external auction, there are many things inside. The price of hundreds of thousands is indeed very low, so he can't blame Lu Feng for all the good things. There are still 5 days left until the 15th day of the first lunar month. Gao Jiwei, who originally came back after the 15th day, has already got off the train. The station is crowded with people. Lu Feng waved to him and shouted, this is it. Gao Jiwei was carrying a bag, followed by 3 people, a woman and 2 men. The 3 of them didn't seem to be in high interest, and they looked at the dilapidated train station with disgust in their eyes. There were 2 men, one had a beard and looked in his 30s, the other was tall and thin, with an indescribable certainty. Dressed very smartly, looks like a leader. Gao Jiwei greeted the 3 of them, trotted over, and said, Mr. Lu, come pick it up in person, and I'll introduce you to it. The 3 of them walked over and looked at Lu Feng. If it wasn't for the high return promised by Gao Jiwei, the 3 of them would have turned around and left. This is Zheng Kaiwen. He has talked about many projects. He used to be a negotiating consultant for state-owned enterprises. He is very good at land mergers and company mergers, Gao Jiwei introduced. Hello, I'm the owner of GMA Foodstuff. My name is Lu Feng. Lu Feng stretched out his hand and shook it. Welcome. Welcome. This is Li Helong. He has his own team, and he handles all kinds of negotiations all over the country all year round, especially from enterprises to local governments. Especially good at, generally can help maximize the interests of enterprises. Hello, welcome, Lu Feng shook hands. This is Zhang Fengxia, Gao Jiwei whispered. People mainly talk about Henan and Hebei. Others said that the relationship between these 2 places is unusual. There's no need to be so mysterious. I have relatives in these 2 places, and I'm not a professional business negotiator or business broker, but Boss Lu is a big business, and no one will pick us up when we get off the plane. Is it stingy to come by train by yourself? Zhang Fengxia smiled at Lu Feng, but the smile was full of displeasure. I'm really sorry. The factory has just started to operate recently. There are a lot of things. I've neglected you. I'll make an apology for everyone. The hotel is ready. Go over now and get in the car. Zhang Fengxia looked at the car and said, just a broken Santana? Isn't Lu always taking us too seriously? The conditions are limited, I'm sorry, Gao Jiwei said a little embarrassedly. Lu Feng could see that although the other 2 also disliked them, they didn't say that they would run around the country all the year round, and if they wanted to take on this kind of negotiation, anything would happen. As for this Zhang Fengxia, at first glance, she is a spoiled person. You sit in the front, Mr. Gao, take a taxi and I'll take them both there, Lu Feng said and got into the car. Zhang Fengxia sat in the co-pilot's seat, glanced at Lu Feng and said, "You don't feel good about me?" Gao Jiwei said that you are very capable, but I came here because of curiosity. Now I look at you with a straight face, and it feels like that. I invited people to negotiate, not to anger me. You can go back anytime if you don't want to, Lu Feng said solemnly. Even the two people at the back couldn't bear it any longer, and said, "You can do whatever you want, don't bother Mr. Lu too much. He asked me to come here, he looks like a scumbag." Lu Feng glanced at it and said nothing. He parked the car downstairs of the Tianyu Hotel and had already opened the room. On the 6th floor, in the living room, Lu Feng looked at Gao Jiwei and said, "Why did you invite me back to be a living ancestor? Damn it, I'm trying to force Lai Lai along the way. I want to beat her. I can't do anything either. The relationship is very tough. Her grandfather heard that she is a retired cotter. This kind of negotiation depends on relationship. There are 3 more to come in a while," Gao Jiwei said helplessly. Lu Feng took a deep breath. He really wanted to get her out of the way and deal with it himself, but he knew that he couldn't. The production time of the first batch of factories would be a blow that would determine his fate. The market timing was right there. To live is to die. I endured it, I tried my best to endure it. Lu Feng sat down and drank a glass of water. "Mr. Lu, the big head is gone. Let's go." I asked Manager Li to find him an adult school. It seems that he has to study for 3 years, and the kin is finalized. I have already asked Manager Li to go to Baiwan City. You can visit the factory over there again. I don't have time for this, you know. I know, I'll have a meeting when I go back today to sort it out. Did Ren Qianbo take over the factory? No, the meat is small, the matter is big, and it's not worth it. Lu Feng shook his head. Ah, Gao Jiwei thought he had won it. Based on what he knew about Lu Feng, he ran faster than anyone else for taking advantage of it. He had been staring at that factory for a long time. He could see that Lu Feng was very anxious. The anxiety from the market, to be precise, came from President Zhong. Leave me the product packaging design, positioning, and marketing. It's the can, and you can do the rest. Call them in a while, hold a meeting, and get busy recently. So fast. Bingui is very fast, I will rest for a while. I have a headache from chatting along the way. Lu Feng rubbed his temples a little irritably. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the 3 sat opposite Lu Feng. Gao Jiwei briefly introduced the situation and said, "Let's listen to Mr. Lu to introduce the 2 factories and the follow-up situation to you." Lu Feng knew that he couldn't hide it anymore, so he cleared his throat and said, "Let me correct it, not 2 factories, but 6 factories. This is still in the early stage. In my general plan, there are 16 factories that need to be negotiated this year. That is to say, you need to keep running, talk about one place, and immediately rush to the next place." The 3 people were not surprised, but Gao Jiwei felt that he was about to explode. Lu Feng always gave him a surprise, but the surprise was too big. "Impossible. Mr. Gao, are you all right? What's wrong? 16 factories. Are you crazy?" Gao Jiwei stood up and stared at Lu Feng and said, "It's all up and running this year, you know that once a chain reaction is formed, it will explode one after another." "I know what you said." Lu Feng leaned on the sofa and looked at him. "But if I don't take my life, how can I fight against Wahaha? Someone bought a factory for 80 million yuan. He's selling nutrient solution. Don't talk, you are in charge of the operation of the factory, these things are not yours to worry about. But now the risk. If you keep talking, you will be fired." Lu Feng looked at him coldly, with frost on his face. Gao Jiwei sat on the sofa like a deflated ball. He couldn't stop this big bet. Lu Feng used to bet often to win, but he felt that he might not win this time. Even Zhang Fengxia and the three felt that this was really crazy. He only has 2 factories, using these 2 factories to leverage 16 factories. I think you should listen to him, otherwise the 2 factories may be gone, Zhang Fengxia said. Does it have anything to do with you? Are you an executive in my factory? Lu Feng stared at her for a long time and said, shut your mouth. You, Zhang Fengxia stared angrily. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 108. Lu Feng looked at the 3 people and said, the conditions we want to get are, first, free land, second, low-interest loans, preferably about 2 years, and third, tax-free policy. This is at least it also takes 2 years, the more the better. The last requirement, the local must provide us with a temporary factory for production. GMA Foods will directly create no less than 1,000 jobs locally, and stimulate no less than 100,000 supporting jobs. After the tax-free time limit expires, the factory's tax will be paid locally, and it will also cooperate with local small and medium-sized enterprises. Enterprises cooperate to drive more business behaviors. After hearing these conditions, the 3 of them frowned a little. Lu Feng just wanted to be a white wolf with empty gloves. He only paid for a production line to build a factory, which was equivalent to the local government giving him money, land, and tax exemptions. You are not a big brand, and you can do this to large foreign companies, such as Coca-Cola. Tell him, I will be a big company next year. Lu Feng looked at the 3 and said, do you think international big companies are inferior? If you want to attract investment in China, you have to pay more than others. Those countries in Southeast Asia give the conditions are even better. Use your 3-inch tongue, plus your relationship, to negotiate the contract. It's hard to talk about such conditions, but Lu Feng knows that it's hard to talk about it doesn't mean you can't talk about it, especially in the current environment. Some places are going crazy to attract investment. It's difficult. We can definitely talk about it. If it's a big city, for example, if there are requirements on the planning of which piece of land, loan interest, and other details, it will take a long time. I only ask for the province, but I don't ask for the specific city. I can't talk about it in the city. You can go to the county to talk. I have a request for the time. Today is February 10th, and the first batch will be discussed before March 15th. Factory, my factory will start in April, the staff will be in place, and the products will start to attack the market, understand? When the 2 heard this, they nodded happily and said, don't worry, just follow the standard. Lu Feng looked at Zhang Fengxia and asked, how about you? As long as the money is given to me, of course I have no problem, but I agreed before I came that I will only be in charge of Henan and Hebei, Zhang Fengxia said casually. These 2 places are fine, but I have to designate the city. Why? They are all casual, so it's different when they come to me. If you designate a city, you have to pay extra. If the conditions are very harsh, I may not be able to help you, Zhang Fengxia shouted, giving the it feels like a second-generation ancestor, not a commercial broker at all. Let's talk later. Lu Feng looked at the remaining 2 and said, the day after tomorrow, I will give the business documents to the 2 of you. I am waiting for your good news. I will set up a banquet here tonight, and let's have a meal together. Okay, Mr. Lu worked hard. Leave it to us, we will definitely complete the task on time. Everyone shook hands with each other, very business atmosphere. Only Zhang Fengxia stood there, out of place, seeing that Lu Feng didn't shake hands with her, dissatisfied. Why don't you shake hands with me? Lu Feng hurriedly shook her hand. After a few polite words, everyone went back to the bedroom to rest. Lu Feng looked at Gao Jiwei and asked, are you sure that Zhang Fengxia's grandfather is a retired cotter? And she's very influential, otherwise, where did she come from? Gao Jiwei took a deep breath, seeing that Lu Feng looked a little complicated, and said, Mr. Lu, I still feel risky, But I know you are a people who are adventurous, who have come from last year, I already know, you think it will not change. The probability of me losing is not high, and the probability of me winning is not high. You manage the factory well, you are good at this, and do what you are good at. Lu Feng patted him on the shoulder and said, go to the White House as soon as possible. The original city. The reason why Lu Feng attaches importance to factories in Henan is mainly because of its geographical location. Building a large factory in Zhengzhou can erode the market in the Yangtze River Delta region, which is Wahaha's base camp. The output of this factory should be large, not only to stabilize the local market. He also had to invade the outside world. Since he chose to go north, don't blame Lu Feng for going south. The dinner that night was very strange. Zheng Kaiwen and Li Helong were very well-mannered business brokers, and they were very good at the etiquette and topics at the dinner table, but people like Zhang Fengxia were different. The price of the three people was negotiated in private. The most expensive one was Li Helong. The negotiated price for a factory was 100,000 yuan, which was definitely not cheap. The cheapest one was Zhang Fengxia, who negotiated 30,000 yuan for a factory. Lu Feng knew that she was just here to play, and by the way used the relationship to make some money. How old are you? Why do you feel younger than me? Zhang Fengxia looked at Lu Feng and asked. I'm 24. A year younger than me. Your family is not simple, you are a boss at such a young age. What's your father's level? My dad is from the village, and I'm not a second generation. If I have to say it, it is the second generation of farmers. As for me, I started from scratch, and I can't compare with someone like you. Also, be calm and don't jump up and down. If you upset me, let you go, Lu Feng said seriously. You dare, if you make me anxious, the two factories of yours will not be able to negotiate. I may not be able to negotiate with you to build factories in these two places, but if you are not allowed to build factories, I will definitely be able to do it. Zhang Fengxia raised her eyebrows and said, my dad said that I am more than successful. The others at the dinner table couldn't help laughing. Meeting such a person, Lu Feng had a headache. Seeing that Lu Feng was on the verge of an outbreak, Gao Jiwei also regretted having brought her here, but she was probably the only person who could make Lu Feng feel so uncomfortable. I was wrong, Lu Feng cupped her hands towards her and said, I can't afford it. It's good that you know. I have a good personality, but I don't know anything. When I see you, I want to bully you. Zhang Fengxia grinned, reaching out and pinching Lu Feng's ear. Such an offensive thing, she just left, and everyone present was stunned. I can tell that your grandfather's level is not low, otherwise you wouldn't be able to live so long, and he would have been beaten to death. Lu Feng picked up the glass and said, drink one. The next morning, Lu Feng sat on the sofa in a daze after eating breakfast. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at him and wondered, you're not so dizzy, what happened today? Gao Jiwei is back, I don't need to take care of things in the factory. Lu Feng was lying on the sofa, squinting. Duo felt unhappy playing with the doll in his hand, stood up and stepped on Lu Feng's chest, sat down and said, Dad, I'll dress you up. Forgive me, Lu Feng quickly stopped her. I'll give you makeup and braids, Duo said relentlessly. Lu Feng instantly knew who Zhang Fengxia looked like. Damn, she was just like Duo, but Duo was young and cute. She was in her 20s, making people uncomfortable. She was obviously spoiled by her family. Don't bother your dad, paint his face in a mess. He will go to the factory for a meeting in a while to make people laugh, so be quiet for a while. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at her and felt that she was going to find a kindergarten for her. Lu Feng opened his eyes, looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and asked, you haven't contacted those rich wives recently, have you? The day before yesterday, Mr. Shen's wife called me out, thinking what to do, but she called me a mahjong hall. Zhang Xiaoyan said mysteriously, how much do you think you played? 100 million floating 1 billion. Zhang Xiaoyan slapped him on the leg and said, I don't know how to play for 100 yuan. I just stood there watching others. I lost more than 2,000 in a few hours. I called me yesterday and I rejected it. Lu Feng didn't persuade her anymore after seeing how she was doing searches. Perhaps beating Duo at home was her most economical entertainment. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng drove to the factory, pushed open the door and entered the office, and found a person sitting in the seat. If it sounds good, it is quirky, and if it sounds ugly, it is naive. Your office is a bit crude, these chairs are not made of leather, Zhang Fengxia said with disgust. Who let you into my office? You are just one of my partners at best. It's inappropriate to sit in my position. Lu Feng's face was a little gloomy. Look at you, the Shangang is on the line, I don't mind sitting. What partner? I came to play in the north. Zhang Fengxia stood up and looked at Lu Feng and said, Are you married? I heard the uncle of the guard say, you all have children. What on earth are you trying to do? Lu Feng sat on the desk, stared at her and said, You come to the north to play, then go play. Why are you staring at me all the time? I'll work for you. I'm not going to talk about some projects. I don't need you to talk, okay? I'm from a girl's family. It's the first time I've been out this far since I grew up, and I don't know the place in my life. Besides, I'm so beautiful, and if something happens to a rogue, it's not good. Zhang Fengxia looked at Lu Feng quietly, and found him watching coldly. Hey! Do you have any sympathy? Forget it, I won't bother you anymore. She sat on the sofa talking. Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Whoever lives bad, marrying her will really be short-lived. He sat down and started to work. She was safe and sound throughout the morning, watching all over the place. Lu Feng finished writing the business document, and clearly wrote a series of issues such as the size of the land occupied, the size of the factory, the production capacity, and the future planning and production. That is to say, he wrote a document with reference to some local factories in later generations and the local consumption potential. Without these references, it would take a month to write a document alone. Give them these things and let them get up as soon as possible. Lu Feng put a stack of documents on Gao Jiwei's desk and said, What about the living ancestor? In the production room. What are you going to do in the delivery room? Is that 25 years old? Why does it feel like my daughter has the same intelligence? To be honest, if it wasn't for her, I would have let her go. I think they are very nice, such a cute character. Gao Jiwei kept blinking at Lu Feng as he spoke. What a hammer, I hope your wife does the same. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he turned around and saw Zhang Fengxia standing at the door at some point. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 109. The two looked at each other, a little embarrassed. Lu Feng coughed twice and said, She's actually quite beautiful. I like her character very much, she's very energetic. I think so too, Gao Jiwei nodded. You also think I'm retarded? Like his daughter, Zhang Fengxia said. Gao Jiwei squeezed out a smile, looked down at the document, and dared not look up again. There is nothing more embarrassing than this. Lu Feng looked at her and said, I was looking for you. Li Helong and the others will leave tomorrow. Now, you should go too. You have a lot of opinions on me? I'm very upset, don't you? Zhang Fengxia looked at Lu Feng with a smile on her face and said, I think you're not too happy. Lu Feng knew that with her temperament, he couldn't have the same knowledge as her, otherwise he would delay the business. He took a deep breath and said, I'm sorry to tell you, don't take it to heart, let's go first. Zhengzhou, I hope you can do more. Are you going to? Can't you trust me? Zhang Fengxia asked suspiciously. If she was a stable person, Lu Feng might not go, but I would never dare to give her this kind of temper. When the eldest lady's temper came, she turned her head and left. Lu Feng's biggest risk now is that he can't make a little mistake, especially the factory here. It's not that I can't trust you, it's that I attach more importance to the factories over there, and I can't afford to make mistakes, Lu Feng explained. Zhang Fengxia snorted contemptuously, turned her head away, and then Gao Jiwei raised her head and said, "You have suffered. As long as things can be done, being a grandson will be a grandson. It's not like I haven't been a grandson." Lu Feng lit a cigarette and said, "I'll be busy with the major factories first, and you don't want to be idle in product design. Now, I will look at it when I come back, no less than 5 plans, you know. Do not worry." During dinner, Zhang Xiaoyan said while eating, "There is a good kindergarten over East Street, but it's a bit expensive. It takes half a semester. Don't talk about money, pay whatever you want, don't be stingy with education, and don't go to public schools." Lu Feng glanced at the little guy who was eating and said, "I'm going on a business trip these days." "A business trip again? You're busy this year, so don't stay at home, just go out and play when you need to," Lu Feng said casually. "Where are you going? How long?" "Zhengzhou. When it comes to getting a factory, I found a second in command in business negotiation. I don't worry. This year's situation is very special. Wahaha in the south has already regarded me as a rival. I can't get it out." Lu Feng whispered. Zhang Xiaoyan felt that he couldn't help anything, just heard that he was going with a woman. "Is that Zhang Fengxia married?" Lu Feng raised his head like an electric shock and looked at her, suddenly feeling that he ignored her feelings. I don't mean anything, you are doing something big, just ask casually." Zhang Xiaoyan dared not go to see Lu Feng like a child who did something wrong. "No, they are second generation, and they are all supported by relationships. Don't think about it, I'm not the kind of person who messes around." Lu Feng stared at her and said, "No matter what, I will always love you, as long as you don't. If you leave me, I will never leave you." Zhang Xiaoyan blushed, pulled her hand back, and said in a low voice, "What nonsense, the child is still here, you are busy with yourself. I also know that men are rich, and there are many women around, you are fine, don't go. Ballroom, no messing around, it's much better." At night, after falling asleep, Duo was picked up by Lu Feng and placed in the living room. Everything was smooth sailing, and the whispers in the dimness showed a different kind of tenderness. It can be seen from Gao Jiwei's visit to the northern market last year that Wahaha is already making a layout. Although the production of products is still not good at all, he has already made the layout. When it comes to playing monkeys, Rebs is not the first person, but Uncle Zone, holding a bottle of nutrient solution. I don't know how many monkeys have been played. Everything is surging in undercurrents, when they see each other. This invisible war has already begun, but Lu Feng seems a little insignificant. When he poached Gao Jiwei last year, he already surprised many people. Gao Jiwei held a meeting for 2 days in a row, arranged the things in the factory properly, and then went straight to Baiwan City. The satisfaction of raw materials made the production capacity of the factory increase rapidly. After packing his things, Lu Feng carried his suitcases to the airport. This time was different from the last time he went to Baiwan City. Lu Feng had a good understanding of the situation in Baiwan City. This time is different. He has to find the relevant departments to negotiate the land as soon as possible, and he cannot get into a stalemate. Once the plan is stalled, the chain reaction will be thunderstorms for all the dozen factories, and the lack of market products will be directly pushed back by Wahaha. So, it must be successful. "What are you doing with a sullen face?" Zhang Fengxia came over with a suitcase. "I still hope you make more shots, this time is very important to me," Lu Feng said solemnly. "Thank you. You play with fire yourself, who's to blame?" "Eat a fat man in one bite, I can only say try your best. Zhang Fengxia has a good understanding of Lu Feng's plan these days, and she feels that the hope of success is too small. Let's talk about it first. Go to the place where Cucao is not allowed, open 2 rooms, and don't think about messy things, you know. Take 10,000 hearts on this, Lu Feng said seriously. What do you mean by that? You mean I'm ugly, Zhang Fengxia said reluctantly. You are beautiful. People who have wives and children still covet a beautiful woman like me, shameless, Zhang Fengxia snorted, with a triumphant smile on her face. Lu Feng was too big, sitting there with his eyes closed, until the plane took off. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng got out of the airport, stopped a taxi, and headed straight for the city. Zhengzhou is not a big city now. Not as good. Large tracts of land are idle, except for some high-rise buildings in the city center, which are basically rural areas and bungalows. The situation in all cities in China is similar, except for places such as Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Tianlong Hotel, 27 stories high, the largest 5-star hotel in the locality. The decoration in front of the door is very domineering. Zhang Fengxia was very surprised to see Lu Feng coming here, carrying a suitcase, and said, "You really have to bring I live here. Just live. You won't open a room, will you?" Shut your mouth. Lu Feng got out of the car. The doorman had already come over to help with the luggage, and led him all the way into the lobby. It is no exaggeration to use splendor here. The huge chandeliers are very imposing. Whether it is marble, Roman columns, or high roofs, they all show vulgar luxury. Open 2 rooms. Hello sir, what room do you have? We have standard rooms, common rooms, distinguished rooms. The standard room is fine, Lu Feng interrupted directly. How many days? Open 10 days first. Okay, sir, a total of 8,965 yuan. More than 8,000? Even Lu Feng felt a little pain in the flesh, so he brought his handbag and directly pressed 10,000 yuan at the front desk. In fact, it was not necessary to go out and live by himself. The main reason is that the location of this hotel is very good. It is less than 500 meters away from the city in a straight line. After returning to the room to put the suitcase away, Lu Feng checked the time. Before 5 p.m., some units had not finished get off work yet. Of course, Lu Feng would not knock on someone's door stupidly and introduce himself. This method simply won't work, not to mention now, even a few years later, a young man surnamed Ma will go to sell the website, and he will be closed. Lu Feng left the room and knocked on Zhang Fengxia's door. Who? Me, Lu Feng. What are you doing? Zhang Fengxia asked cautiously, leaning against the door. What the hell can you do? Do you know anyone from the Industrial and Commercial Bureau? The land administration, or the city office? Come out for dinner at night, Lu Feng said. Where do I know people? What about local investment promotion? I don't know either. Lu Feng rubbed his head with his hands, wishing he could drag her out and beat her, took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and said, "Open the door, let's discuss where to start." The door opened a gap, and her little head stuck out. She smiled at Lu Feng's unhappy face and said, "I don't know them, but they know me. They don't know me, they also know my grandfather." Then find the investment promotion office first, Lu Feng said, change your clothes and be more formal. What time is it? Everyone is about to get off work, tomorrow, Zhang Fengxia said a little unhappily. Take the time, and our conditions are relatively harsh, so we have to be the first to talk for a few more days, understand, Lu Feng said softly, I'm a little tired. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng arrived at the office building. Now every place will have an investment promotion office, and there will be a special person in charge. Usually, they go to the company, not the company to go to them. Knocking on the door, a lazy voice came from inside, "Come in." Lu Feng opened the door and walked in. He saw a bald middle-aged man sitting there lazily, looking at them and asking, "What's the matter?" "Hello, I'm the owner of GMA Food, my name is Lu Feng, and now I have the idea of building a factory, I hope." "We don't need a factory. I've never heard of your name before." "I'm off work, go out." The other party stood up and kept refusing. Before Lu Feng could finish speaking, he was thrown out. Standing in the corridor, Lu Feng sighed helplessly. Seeing that the other party came out and locked the door, he said, "I want to see the director of the investment promotion office." I still hope you can listen to me. Our factory's products are very advantageous, and now we want to expand. Enough is enough, it's time to get off work." The other party waved his hands again and again. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 110. Unfamiliar with life, Lu Feng had a closed door on his first trip out, but he felt it was reasonable and expected. "I just didn't expect that a director of the local investment promotion office would be so arrogant. It stands to reason that the desire for large factories in various places is very strong. Lu Feng has a bad premonition that such an attitude will not appear. The target for this year has already been reached, or someone has been selected. I said there's no need to come, now you're happy standing here." Zhang Fengxia leaned against the wall and rolled her eyes, looking at Lu Feng and muttered, "It's good to see the king of hell, but the little devil is hard to deal with, this is the truth. It's not that I don't understand, let's have a big dinner tonight." "How is it you treat me?" Lu Feng didn't want to pay attention to her, and a buddy next to him also came to work, holding a stack of documents in his hand, and everything about Lu Feng just fell into his eyes. "Young man, come here empty-handed, just want to do things, how can it be so easy?" The uncle snorted twice. "Either you will waste it, when people are in a good mood, maybe they will agree. Or find someone." Lu Feng nodded and said a few polite words to others. He walked out of the lobby and walked towards the hotel. Seeing that he was ignoring her, Zhang Fengxia quickly ran after him and said, "Are you going to have a big meal? What do you want to eat?" Lu Feng stopped and looked at her and asked. "Lobster. Seafood or something, it's on the street in front. When I came to the hotel, I saw it." "What is the name of seafood, everyone?" Zhang Fengxia pointed to the front and said. Lu Feng nodded, put his arm around Zhang Fengxia's shoulder, and said intimately, "I paid you to do things, right?" "That's right," Zhang Fengxia nodded, somewhat bewildered. Although she likes to make noise, she still feels a little uncomfortable to be hugged by Lu Feng like this. "Then I went to the person from the investment promotion office and had a closed door, and you were watching. Actually, I couldn't stand it for a long time. After eating the seafood, I called their leaders to criticize them. In this era of economic activities, how can I be so scornful of a big boss like President Lu?" Zhang Fengxia blinked her eyes and said, "You think I'm saying that? Okay. Very good." A seafood meal cost hundreds of dollars, and Lu Feng Guan was full of lobsters. Back at the hotel, Lu Feng sat on Zhang Fengxia's bed, looked at her and said, "Call me." Zhang Fengxia looked at him suspiciously. She had not been alone in a room with a man when she grew up. She picked up the landline and moved to the side, and started to press the phone. Lu Feng couldn't help laughing when he saw her such a small gesture, sometimes childish like a child, sometimes overly cautious. "Hey, Uncle Wang, it's me, Fengxia. My grandfather is in good health, don't worry, I'm in your place now. I have nothing to do recently. I want to go for a walk in the north. I don't want to work with you. I want to be in business." Lu Feng wanted to laugh when he was listening. Someone like her is in business. Recently, a friend wanted to ask something. Today we went to the investment promotion office. 10 minutes later, after hanging up the phone, Zhang Fengxia looked at Lu Feng and said, the quota for investment promotion this year is full. There is a company called Wantung Industrial that is currently active. I can also approve it for you, but it is definitely impossible for you to agree to those conditions. As predicted, Lu Feng knew in his heart that there was a lot of oil and water in attracting investment from various places. The first batch of companies were all oil and water. If he wanted to eat this cake, he had to have a relationship, and it was not an ordinary relationship. Even a friend like Huang Youwei, Lu Feng wants to go to his factory to build a factory. He is vague, he has allocated a lot of funds, plus low interest or even interest-free loans. Who is not jealous? Some people even take the money, do nothing, eat, drink and have fun every day, and in the end the money is not paid. It can only be a confused account. This is an era of starvation and cowardice. What does this Wantung Industrial do? Already got the index? Lu Feng said eagerly. No, but it has been stabilized. The conditions for making furniture are very similar to yours. The first phase of the construction of the factory covers an area of 1,600 acres, with a total area of about 4,000 acres. Became the largest furniture factory, with an interest-free loan of 27 million to build the factory. In the areas of land transfer, interest-free loans, and tax exemptions, each province has indicators every year. This furniture factory has already occupied the largest area. If Lu Feng wants to talk about the same indicators again, it is easy to exceed the standard, and Lu Feng knows that business risk is high. Logically speaking, the indicators should not be so small. There should be some small factories left to share, and there should be goals. This one is here to say hello, and the other is here for a meal, and the division is almost the same. It's just the humming New Year's Eve, Lu Feng said worriedly. I think you're out of the game. Uncle told me inside and out that he is unlikely to help, and the other party's power is not small, unless the other party can withdraw voluntarily, change the place, or go to Anhui, Zhang Fengxia suggested. There are local snakes here, and Anhui has local snakes in Anhui. The competition in big cities will definitely be particularly fierce, and even some international brands and large state-owned enterprises will come to snatch them. This situation is not only now, even after more than 10 years of investment promotion, big cities will easily achieve their goals, and even companies want a piece of land. Go, just like Lu Feng met the county magistrate during Chinese New Year. It's here, anyway, it's a month away, I'm not reconciled without tossing it, Lu Feng said solemnly. Zhang Fengxia rolled her eyes and felt helpless. She leaned on the sofa and looked at Lu Feng and said, don't blame me for speaking badly. Just your plan is no different from suicide. 2 factories are used as leverage to move 16 factories. Still saying that Wahaha is messing with you all day long? You haven't suffered from paranoia, have you? You don't understand business. Zhang Fengxia laughed out loud, looking at Lu Feng and said, I'll tell you a little secret, my undergraduate is Harvard Business School, I studied business management, and my graduate student is at Yale. I just returned to China this year to start my own business, understand? President Lu. Lu Feng looked at her, with pride on her face, her eyes narrowed slightly, as if to despise his muddy legs, and the last sentence, President Lu, was extraordinarily sarcastic. You look down on me. No, Zhang Fengxia put her feet on the armrest of the sofa and said, I just think you're crazy, maybe it's because of ignorance that you're fearless. Look at your face, it's so droopy, I'm not scolding you, I just feel, the furniture factory doesn't work, and the local government doesn't dare to give you the indicators, the risk is too great. Are you so sure? As long as you are a decision maker with a brain, I will definitely not give it to you. I can help you find a relationship. If you don't believe it, let's wait and see. I've studied business for so many years, and I'm still better than you. Lu Feng laughed when he heard this, stood up and said, then let's see, Do you know someone named Zhao Kuo? I don't know, what's wrong? It's okay, I just think you are very similar to him, Lu Feng said and walked towards the door. Zhang Fengxia pondered the heat for a while, and suddenly realized that she took off the slippers from her feet and threw them in the past, scolding, "You are Zhao Kuo, you are only talking about soldiers on paper." Lu Feng turned his head and smiled at her, and went back to his room. It was late at night, and Lu Feng was standing in front of the window looking at the night scene outside and couldn't fall asleep. He could be sure that this company called Wantung Industrial was definitely stronger than him. The overall estimate of GMA Food is more than 10 million. This is still considered the market potential. It is not easy to win such a big cake. It is tantamount to swallowing an elephant. Lu Feng knew from the beginning, so he spent money to find these people to do it, but he didn't think that someone was faster than him. Lu Feng searched in his mind. He had never heard of this furniture company in later generations. It was probably a drop in the ocean in history. As for Zhang Fengxia's education, he did not expect it. However, it is also reasonable. With such a large background, studying abroad is a normal operation. I just don't know where this company is. It's unfortunate to meet me. If I don't kill you, I won't survive. Lu Feng sighed, put out the cigarette butt in the ashtray, looked into the distance, and couldn't say how deep it was. In a villa thousands of miles away, a man in his 50s suddenly sneezed in his sleep and woke up from his dream. The next day, in the breakfast room, Lu Feng sat opposite Zhang Fengxia with breakfast. I want to know where the company's office is and some specific internal information. Brother, let's stop fussing, you can just change the place, I think it, listen to Mr. Gao's advice, steadily expand production, step by step. If you have been doing it for more than 10 years, you must be a well-known brand in the region. Right. One has to have a dream, can't you just be a food brand all your life? Do you know Bill Gates? Lu Feng asked. Yo, big brother is not easy. You know Bill Gates, and you also have a dream of being the richest man. Zhang Fengxia's words were a bit ridiculed. People who don't have dreams are no different from salted fish. You receive money, so just do as I say. I want to see with my own eyes how a person goes astray for his dream. I'll call you later and ask. Zhang Fengxia sighed, obviously not optimistic about Lu Feng. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a portfolio was placed in front of Lu Feng. The information inside was very complete, from the legal representative of the company, production scale, brand registration time, number of shareholders, market share, number of employees, and even market competitors. All have. This information alone is invaluable. When Gao Jiwei asked a friend to find me, I thought it was to help a friend, so I agreed casually. The price I said before is not acceptable. Whether it is successful or not, I will take at least 100,000 yuan. If it does, I will ask for 300,000 yuan. Lu Feng flipped through the documents, nodded and said, then get ready and get 300,000.